We now have a closer look to human factors in our Open HPI course about cyber threats by malware. We already discussed that technical failures make it possible that malware, that cyber criminals find the possibilities to install malware on computer systems of their victims. But same risk is provided by the user of that system. So the human factor, it stands for all human aspects that could create security risks in a computer systems. We can distinguish two categories of such human factor. This is once the active risk, that is risk that's caused by unknowingly or knowingly doing certain activity, or passive category of passive risk that is caused by not doing certain activity that should have been done. Often this human factor is called social engineering. And social engineering, these are social hacking attacks. Here the attacker tried to impersonate other people or systems, website or application, to trick the users to share secret personal information or to do something which helps them to get their malware installed. Here are some examples. For example, user gets a phone call from an unknown number. The attacker tells that he is an employee from the user's bank and needs his help to check for potentially fraudulent bank transfer. The user gets in a stress situation. Oh, my bank account was hacked. What happened with my money? So by means of this message, a certain pressure is put to the user, and in that situation, the attacker says, "I will help you. I will support you. I will take care that nothing serious happens. But to do this, I need your private bank account details. For example, to verify the fake transfer." The attacker, when the user is willing to share this data, then the attacker can use the data to maliciously authenticate himself with a bank and then doing the real attack. You see, the social engineering misuses weaknesses of humans, designs stress situation, tries to receive trust for something which the user would not do without such an situation which is created by the attacker. Let's have a look on some human factors which are active human factors. So email phishing. Email phishing we already discussed. Here the attackers try to send emails with a malicious attachment. Malicious attachment means an attachment, for example, a letter or an image, and inside this letter or inside this image, malware is hidden. And the attachment containing this email, if the user opens this attachment, then automatically the malware is installed. So here it is up to the user to be aware of this threat. So attachment from a source you are not knowing, you should not simply open, but it could contain malware, and then this malware is installed on your computer, on your system. In most cases, you are not aware that there is a malware and is installed, because this malware starts to do their worst attack work later on. If an email is not expected, or if an email comes from an unknown person, do not open attachment. Do not open attachment, because it could be a way to install malware on your computer. If an email appears to be from a colleague but sounds suspicious. Ask the colleague through a different channel, for example, by phone or an SMS, whether this email, whether this information really comes from them. Another active factor allows spear phishing attacks. We already discussed about phishing attacks. So the traditional phishing attacks are widespread, and they are no more so effective because many people heard in the media that one should be careful if one gets an email from the bank which says, we want to do some installation, please log in. So the attacker in the spear phishing, they turn to a personalized attack, to the personalized phishing or spear phishing attack. The idea behind this is that the attacker collects highly detailed personal information about his victim, which later on he is using for gaining trust of that person. So the attacker collects references of a person, for example, from friends, family members, colleagues, which know the victim, and later on, when they formulate their phishing mail or their phishing attack, they use this information, and the victim start to believe that this email comes really from a family member or from a colleague, because so much information could no one know else. What the victim is forget is that such information are public in social media or in a web presence, and so the attacker with a spear phishing attack have good success rates. So spear phishing have a much higher success probability than the requirement, than sending of a traditional phishing, but they require much more work from the attacker. So typically such personalized phishing is very dangerous and is sent to important person. For example, to a CEO of a company, to a politician, to a high-ranked official, to an army general or others, and to people working in sensitive sectors, for example, in military, in business, in financial, in politics. So the attacker could be launched by states, activist hackers, organized crime, which have enough resources to prepare such spear phishing attacks. A remark, many other attacks on the internet are starting with such a personalized phishing attack, starts with such a spear phishing attacks as a first step to get credentials, to step into a system and then to continue with other things. If we look to passive human factors, then we have to mention that even when a company is providing good security guidelines, if the user, if the employees are not following these guidelines, then the attacker can attack the system of the company, even on a way that that the security guidelines would not allow. So there may be employees who simply do not care or do not follow such guidelines in general, and in particular such security guidelines. So they fail to adhere to the guidelines, to the standards. This could cause serious security problems because they are not doing what they are suspected to do. And if the attacker finds one employee behaving in such a lazy or in such a lazy way or in such a way not following the regulation, then the attacker can succeed with this attack and can be able to install malware in the system of the company. So what the in the company, what they have to do is to provide dedicated information to the people, to sensibilize the employees for the topic of security, for the topic of cybersecurity, and depiction of results of lack of caution. Our course also should provide such an awareness for these kinds of attacks. In general, the weakest link in the security chain is often the human being. Behaves lazy, behaves uninformed, is doing obstructive work or others. This makes it dangerous. This is a very complex system, and in this chain all have to do, all elements have to follow the rules. So the human factor is really a decisive one if we consider cyber threats in general and cyber threats by malware in detail.